aware of this shell line. You can see the shell line kind of goes down the beach like this. So when you pick shells, you just walk along it and look for the correct shell. So I'll show you. There's one right here. It's just like a little white shell right there. And so you just pick it up and it looks like that. And I'll show you more examples, but that's sort of what it looks like. Then you should have a shell container.
What is it called?
It's called a momi. And you should have a shell container like this and just be putting them in there and filling it up until you have a bunch of momis. So here's another one. Hi, so we're still collecting momis. There's actually 4 in this one place, so here's one. See, that one has more of a pattern. It's kind of pretty. This one, yeah. This one is yellower. Oh, and there's one right here. Another one.
I see some ahead too.
Okay, so now we have picked all of our shells and we've cleaned them off so there's no more sand and dried them off, and then now I'm going to explain to you guys, after we have sorted all of our shells, what are the different types of momis. So first off, momi actually means pearl, and these shells are called the dove shell species, like in English. So this first type of momi is called momi ke'o-ke'o. Ke'o-ke'o means white, and these specific white ones are all the like faded white momis. And then there's more like, so these are like plain white ones, and there's more plain white ones but with other extra like features. So this one is momi ke'o-ke'o waha ula ula, and ula ula means red. So these the little mouths of the shells have like a little red dot on them, so that's just a different species or just a different coloring. And then next is the momi ke'o-ke'o waha ele ele, which is the black mouth one. As you can see, like they have the little black dots right at the edge. And then next is the momi uli uli, which is the like fossilized kind of darker blue-gray shells. And uli uli kind of just means dark colors, and it also can be specified as just actually like a deep blue color. And these ones, it's actually kind of cool because they're sort of like the fossilized momis. Like they're buried like under the sand for really long times, and when they emerge, they're like these different darker colors. So just because it was kind of hard to see, here are some of the momi uli uli next to just the regular momi ke'o-ke'o, because the ke'o-ke'o is really white, and now you can actually kind of see how much grayer and darker the momi uli uli are compared. And then next is the momi kaha kaha. This is kind of my favorite. They're super pretty. Kaha kaha means striped, and these ones are pretty much just like pretty little striped momis. And then next, these ones are the yellower forms of momi, which is called momi lena lena. Lena lena means yellow. And these ones, they kind of have variety. Like some, like this one specifically, are like a stronger yellow versus these other ones. Well, the stronger yellow ones are actually called a different name sometimes, momi pua mele mele. Whereas these other ones are just kind of lighter ones, which are usually just called like momi lena lena, or yeah. And then over here we have momi oniki niki. Both of these two kinds are momi oniki niki, and niki niki means spotted, and so they're both the spotted variety of momi. And these two are just in different piles because this one is the Momio Niki Niki Ikaika, which is just the Ikaika means strong, so they're kind of the stronger, like brighter colored ones. You can see the spots better. And these ones are the Momi Ahie Hie, and they are a little like the same kind, but they're a little bit more faded, and they just have less color. Okay, so Niihau shell lays are made out of kahelelani and of the momis that I already showed you guys. Momis tend to be not as bright of colors, and they're kind of like shiny and like pretty and just like yeah, pearly. And these the kahelelanis are brighter colors. They're like more variation of color, and they're like another type of shell that can be put in a lei. It can be combined with momi and kahelelani to make lei, niihau shell lei, but sometimes it's just momi or just kahelelani. Just kind of depends on who's making it. So this first variation of kahelelani is kahelelani ele, which is the blacker colored kahelelani. So these next ones are kamoa. They're actually turbo shells. They're not kahelelani, but they're still used in niihau shell leis, and they kind of look a little bit similar to kahelelani. And then next, these ones are kahelelani ula ula, which is the ula ula means red, so it's the redder colored kahelelanis. So these light pink ones are called kahelelani akala pua. Akala means pink, and pua is flower. And then these other ones are also kahelelani akala, but they are kahelelani akala ikaika, and ikaika is strong again, so it's like the lighter pink and then the stronger darker pink. And then these ones right here are the really dark ones. They are called kahelelani makue. Yeah, kahelelani makue, and makue means brown. Makue. And makue means brown, so they're the brown kahelelani. Okay, so hi everybody. Today I'm starting to make the niihau shell lei for the island of Niihau. So what I'm doing right now is I'm tipping all of these shells. So I'm just taking off all of the tips like this. You can use if you don't have like a power tool where you can do it, you can use clippers to just like clip it off. And the point is, like, the whole reason why you're taking off this beautiful tip is so that you can fit this drill bit into it. I don't know if I got it quite enough. No, I didn't. Here, wait. And also, some of these shells already have holes in them just from before, like being tossed around in the waves and stuff. So some of them you don't even have to do anything because it already fits into the drill bit. But I'll show one more time. I'll get a shell that might actually show me tipping it. So just like on Niihau today, they tend to use nail clippers more because that's just kind of what they have accessible to them. But if you can, we are going to use the belt sander, which is shown right there. So now I'm putting it on the sander belt. I'm just shaving off the full tip. Okay, so the next step of the process is pretty simple. All you're doing is taking the sand out of, now that you've drilled or tipped off all these shells, you're just taking the sand out of the opening of the shell right there, or what was once the only opening, and then you just put them in a separate pile. It's really not that hard. You're just using a needle for this, preferably one that's about the size of the opening so that it can get all of the sand and like not get stuck. Pretty simple, and then you go through all of your shells, making sure that there's no sand left. Okay, so after you've cleaned your shells of all of the sand that was in the opening, you want to use a Dremel. Okay, so on Nihao, the lay makers there actually use just a sharp, just metal tip. It's kind of huge too. And what they do is they would put it on like a hard surface and then just like stab, wait, turn it over this way, and then just like stab a hole in down there. I won't show that because this tends to break the shell. So what we use instead here is a Dremel with a diamond bit that a lot of lay makers now use because it's a little bit easier than stabbing stuff. And what you want to do is I'll show you without it on first. You're gonna go in through the hole and just try and like right off of the hole, just up and through kind of the top, this side or the top of the shell right here. So I'll show one that we've already done. So that's, you hold it, yeah, okay. So that's like what the hole will look like. It can be really small. And then, so how you hold it when you start, you hold it like this so that the opening is on your thumb and the top on your index finger. And then you turn it on to lowest setting because you don't need it to be really high. And then you just want to put it right through the hole, and then like right at the top right there, you just wait for a little while and eventually it will get, see with that hole coming on right there? Now there's a little hole in the shell. That's exactly what you need. I'll show one more time. So holding it with the opening. Oh, that one already has a hole in it. So opening top like that, thumb, index finger. And make sure you have a firm grip on it. Don't be scared of the Dremel, because I was when I started. And then just right. That one's a little bit far back, but you can see a little hole. Welcome back. Today we have finished drilling all of our shells, so now they all have little holes in the top and they also have holes in the front, so we'll be able to string them now. And we're just sorting them into piles by size because we're gonna make a lei that sort of starts big in the middle and then like comes up and tapers to smaller at the top. So we have to get them in like general sizes. So right now we have like the real, like the extra large shells, and then like regular large, and then the mediums, and then the like really small tiny ones over here. So once you have these all sorted, we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so now that we've sorted all of our shells into the piles, we're going to use this like necklace or whatever necklace lei making organizer, and we're actually like lining up the shells in pairs by their size. So as you can see, these shells that we've paired up, they have to sort of look alike, not perfect, but like just try a little bit to see if they can look alike. And then these are the really, really big ones, and then it's just coming out and slowly it gets smaller as we go. And we'll use another organizer for the smaller ones or like the end of the lei, but you just keep going until you have all of your pairs laid out on these organizers. So we have now laid out all of our shells on, or the beginning of our shell lei onto the organizer, and we have fireline like string, which is basically just fishing line. So that's what we actually use to tie our whole lei on. So what we did is we cut off one strand. Well, we pulled it out to see how long we wanted it, because it depends on if you want a choker, or if you want like a longer kind of lay. It just kind of, it's all depending on what you want. So you get however much string you want, and keep in mind that you have to tie knots on every 2 groups of shells that you put on there. So it's gonna like reduce the amount of line that actually stretches out. So you want more than less, basically. And so what we did is you get one of those lines, you measure it out, then you cut another one, so it's 2, and then you want to find the middle and then tape it onto a table with painter's tape so it doesn't like all fall off. And then you start with one side, you can fold the other side up like we did so it doesn't get in the way, and you can start stringing your shells. Okay, so we are actually going to make the piqué style of lei, which is, we're just making 1 strand. This lei that my mom made is 3 strands, but we're making 1 strand, and this style of lei, the piqué, is, it's 2 shell pairing, and then the butts or the openings are sticking out so you can actually see the openings, whereas in other styles you can't. So this is what we're going for, except 1 strand, and we're making it long instead of just like kind of choker style. Okay, so now what we want to do is, when you start stringing, because you're stringing like one side of the lei first and then like going to the other side and alternating like that. So we have to use only one side of the shells that we've laid out on the organizer. So you can start here, they're all in pairs already. And you want to come, oh, let's find it. You put 1 on each string, so 2 shells for each time that you'll tie a knot. You go through the front hole, and then you come out this little hole that you made with the drill bit. And then you just push it down. So facing downwards like that. And then you go to the other, well, you can push it all the way down first so it doesn't fall off. And then you can go to the other string and take the other shell that's paired up with that one. Like this, and then find the front hole here. This one? Tip opening, yeah. And then the side. And push it down. And then it's really simple. You just tie a simple overhand knot. Like that. The shells, yeah, the shells.
You gotta make it set.
And then
Tighter. Yeah, that's good. So you can kind of see how they go.
yeah, see how they're sticking out and how the bottoms are shown. Like that. So welcome back, guys. We are almost 100% done with our lei now, and I just want to show you some good pointers because we haven't been filming much, so you guys haven't really heard that much from me about how to make this lei, except for the basics. You should tie it really low down to the base, just because it's really easy to get your line tangled, and then that can actually affect the shells and where they lie. So the whole point of this is to kind of make a pattern with your shells, and sort of the butts alternate where they stick out, and it kind of just has a flow to it. So the shells should just set where you want them to be, but you kind of have to tie them in a certain way if you don't want to have complications with the setting of the shell. So instead of tying like way up here and making this huge knot, and just making it more, it's harder for yourself because you have to pull it so far through and down, you want to just come real low to the base, like almost at the shells, and then just tie it down here so you have so much less to deal with, and then you just pull it taut, and they should just lay where you want them to be. You know how we showed before, we split it in half, and we are stringing based on like we're stringing small ones on one side and then small on the other, and we had the big shells in the middle that kind of separate the two halves. And in this lay, all of the shells face the same way. So what we've sort of been doing is when we go to do another side, like taping half of it, you know, like how we showed in the last clip, we've been having to string some of the shells backwards. Like on one half, we string them correctly, which is through the top, the front like this, and then out the hole on the side. And for the other side, we've been stringing it kind of weirdly, and we've been stringing it through the hole on the side and out the front, which is not quite as easy to do. It takes a little bit more time, but it makes it so that you can organize the shells so they go in the order where it's big in the middle, and then they kind of just taper out to smaller shells. And that's the only way that you can really do that correctly. So just keep in mind that you have to string them in different ways on both sides. See, like this one right here, this shell, it didn't fall correctly where I wanted it to be, so you have to go back, like twist it around, fix it, and then just re-tighten, and then you can see that it's worked that time and it actually lines up with the rest of the shells. So we have been using the middle fat shells as a reference. The fattest shells are probably around here, and we've been trying to find the middle based on those, and then based on that we're taping down, how we're stringing is we're taping down one side on the blue tape over there, and then stringing onto the opposite side. And on this side we're stringing the correct way, so through the top hole and out the side hole. And then over here, when we tape the side that I've been working on for a while over here, this side we string it through the side hole and down. So then it works out that we split the shell sizes perfectly between the right and the left side of the lay, having the big shells as the middle, but we don't string the shells the same way, which is sort of confusing, but it makes sense. You should be able to understand it. And then as we've been showing, we've been using the organizer, and this kind of helps because we put pairs, the exact same amount of pairs on each side. We put like one pair, one pair, one pair, one pair, and then we start in the middle, and one side of this goes on the right or the left side of the lay, and then the other side goes on the left and the right. And hopefully you can get it so it's the right exact amount of pairs, so that you don't have to, like, at the end try and tell where the middle is and figure out if one side is longer than the other and correct it. So now we're going to close off the lay by using a bigger shell. These are called punctata and punctata cowries, and you can find them kind of just in, you know, like all over in beaches and stuff that have lots of shells. They're not like super rare, and my mom and I have collected a lot of these over time. So the punctata is actually the shell that is used by the Nini House shell lay makers. So that is why we use it. It's actually not very good to use if you want your lay to have a clasp, if it's like a choker type that you can't just pull over your head. But for this one, we can just pull this lay over our head, so we're using the punctata cowrie to close it off, and we're not going to actually have a clasp. So we have to look, and based on like the sizes of the shells, you don't want a huge one like this because it kind of doesn't fit in relation to like the one strand. If you had multiple strands, maybe that would work, but it doesn't really work down. So something like that, or maybe this one works even better. Some of the shells are whiter, and I think with this lay, the darker colored shells actually look a little bit better because it sort of blends in with all of the shells itself. So to close off just this part of the lay, the shells, you should do right over left, which you already might have done, and then just once more left over right like that, so it just will stay and not fall apart. So you have to clean out your cowrie before you use it to close off the ends. It's actually a lot more sand in these than in the actual moldies. So all my dad did was tie a square knot where in the middle where it's perfectly fitting the shell, space perfectly fitting the shell. And now he's just
so it can slide into the shell, right?
yeah, but like so and then he's tying knots just onto the sides because this is really thin line and it's not thick enough, so it won't like sit in the shell like well, it will just slip out. And then next we'll use glue.
You need a different tool.
Your finger? I guess so. And this is just pushing in the line into the shell before we glue it. Can't we get it over here?
That's good.
We've put Duco on it 3 times after we stuffed it in and are just pushing the glue into the shell. Leave the shell sitting up for 24 hours so that the glue can sink in and it won't, and the string will stay in the shell.